Hello, it's Jane Wright here, and today I'm going to be talking about a treatment for a situation where excess permeability occurs in the organism. This can occur anywhere, really, literally. Certainly, the very common areas where it occurs is the large bowel, which tends to be a difficult thing to happen because the large bowel is supposed to be sequestered. There's nitrogen waste and all sorts of toxic material. It's supposed to be sealed away from the organism. And so if that becomes hyperpermeable, then the content, that nasty content, ends up seeping into the peritoneal cavity, and then the lymphatic system gets very toxic, and it causes a whole host of conditions, from kind of nagging headaches, certainly achy, inflammatory conditions. But in addition to the large bowel becoming hyperpermeable, it's very common that the kidneys become hyperpermeable. That's a quick and easy test to see if there's a hyperpermeability there. If you look in the toilet after urinating, if there are bubbles, that means protein has emerged into the place where it's not supposed to be. And so that is an indicator of hyperpermeability in the kidneys. But as I said, you can get, oftentimes the endothelium of the body will become sometimes just a small segment hyperpermeable, and that can really lead to chronic inflammation wherever that endothelium is, whether it's in the esophagus or the bronchial area. You can get a real nasty excoriation, because of hyperpermeability. So hyperpermeability also occurs after every cold that we get, or certainly, definitely after the flu. And the way most people would notice that their system, the large bowel in particular, is hyperpermeable is that their head would be constantly snuffy, mucousy. They're constantly sniffing. That gives you that idea. And of course, the way viruses work is one of the first places they go for when they trick our body into making their virus babies, replicating them. And so when those virus babies are getting around, they tend to attack the large bowel, which again makes just tremendous mucosity in the head organism. So, I mean, for a woman at the end of her cycle, she has become somewhat hyperpermeable because of the alkaline, the changes in pH that have occurred. Some of these things will self-correct, but some, don't correct that well. And so, also, if you are treating yourself with some kind of electric device like the Rife machine, the frequencies have, there's a downside to everything on the physical plane, a higher nature too. And so when you're using the Rife machine as a way of putting a boundary to an infection, one of the downsides of that is that it generates hyperpermeability. It's the electricity that does that. So even, going into the subway in New York City consistently, you get a little bit more hyperpermeable from being there. And so the treatment for it is, fairly simple. It has to do with, you have your hand here on either side of the angle of Louis, but there's a column that goes up in the air that you're really accessing. So you're putting your thumb side of your hand on the bottom, next to the body, and the hand is perpendicular to the body because you want to access those two columns here. So what you're going to do is grasp those two columns, and you're going to project them through the abdomen, down through the obturator foramen. The obturator foramen is a place where the nerves and blood vessels come down into the leg. And so you're projecting down through that. And then your other hand either goes on a site that has become hyperpermeable or uses the therapeutic center for that area. And then you just hang out in that position until you can feel some people can feel, not everyone who's sensitive enough, there's a kind of like a little motor that when you connect all those things together, there's a movement going on. And then it will stop. That can give you, if you have that, you can know, when you can stop. But usually if something has become hyperpermeable, you want to do at least a couple minutes worth of treatment over it. You can tell, like if your head gets less clogged, it will get less clogged if the colon is not permeable like that, the endothelial lining of the colon.